both in. Oh. There we are.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to our show. A day of technical challenges, but we are up for it. We are sitting outside in sunny Southern California, and we're so glad to be here with you. So, thank you everybody for rocking the love with us. Make sure you let us know you're out here. I am Robin.
And I'm Gil. And we're excited to be with you this beautiful day.
Yeah, I'm thinking that this isn't the best camera angle for you because we can't see you because of the
Okay,
sun in your
it's done.
face. So, yeah, you might want to come over on this. So
Or
while
maybe
he
I'll move and use my mic somewhere else.
or here, anyway, he's going to move to a new location. And in the meantime, I'm going to tell you how glad we are to be here and how happy we are to see you and how happy we are to be on vacation. Yay, vacation in the motherland in Southern California. So we're here doing a variety of things besides being on vacation. It doesn't really feel like vacation, but I had dental surgery yesterday. I just launched right into my week. Um, I had dental surgery and am recovering well, as you can see. And it's just been that kind of week, just trying to get out of town and get to the next event, make it to the right place at the right time. Because, when you go to visit family, there's a schedule and an agenda and things that people want you to do. And so we're just working and trying to get through all that. As you might guess, we do not have our producer, Michael Mangus, here yet. He is out purchasing a car, but he should be here at some point in time. And then things should run a little smoothly. But in the meantime, I have my expert technician, the best technician in my heart, Gil William Olmsted.
I'm a tech for sure. Don't tell anyone, but if you need tech help, call me. Woohoo! Yeah, I would advise
But
you
don't
against
call
it.
me after you call him. Anyway, so we're here and we are talking today about vacations. Vacation, to vacation or not to vacation? That is the question. And we're going to just dive into it. And a little bit last week, we talked about what was our title? The art of being, or the art of
Being seen.
the art of being seen. And I think, for me, the topic is going to kind of continue from there before we go to the bigger aspect of it. But I think when you're in the state of being seen, sometimes you have to like take a proverbial break to figure it all out. That's what I'm thinking. So we're going to dive into it and we're going to talk about all different aspects of it. Um, yeah, and we'd love to hear what you have to say in the chat. So please feel free to chat and hopefully we'll be able to see it and talk back. All right. You want to say anything?
Ah,
No, that was
I
profound.
wanted a vacation. I was on vacation this morning.
You were. I let you sleep in.
I know. But then I got here and it wasn't quite working right. So it's a little frustrating. But we're here.
We're here. So let's move on. Do you want to say anything about your week?
The week has been sort of short and kind of nice because we were looking forward to going and we did some cleanup around the house and we did some things that got us ready and I think it felt pretty good. So I'm feeling good.
And I'm just wondering, I want to ask the listeners, do you all, like, when you're going on vacation, is there like, do you have a surge to try to get your house clean and get everything in order? I do. It's like I can't leave with a messy house. I think it has something to do with like, I think that going on vacation is going to change my life. I'm going to relax and rest and And I want to come home, and that Zen feeling is going to continue. But I don't know. What do y'all think?
I think it's just connected to the to, to the clean underwear when you go to the hospital concept. You know, we're afraid our house is going to look bad.
No, that's not me. That's
That's
not
not
my.
you.
Mm-mm. What's Shay saying? I see her out there.
I see Raymond saying hello.
Oh, Raymond.
Nice to see you, Raymond. Thank you.
Much love, Raymond. My heart is with you. Yeah, a lot of transition happening these days. This last couple of weeks between people and pets, it's been full, and I just want to send a lot of love, a lot of love. Raymond just had the passing of his son, so yeah. So you're in my heart and in my soul.
Mm. Blessing, Raymond.
Yeah, and anybody out there that's lost anybody or is experiencing that,
Well, it seems to kind of be something going on right now.
it does it.
And we're on our way. Part of the reason we're here is for 2 memorial services, and somebody else we know wasn't going to be able to do something because she was going to be in a memorial service on the same day, and it's just very interesting. And there was just one at the center last night for a beloved community member. You know, it's just
Yeah, and Deb's dad.
yeah, our 99-year-old native transition.
Ernie.
And you know, as much as you want to think that doesn't affect the people around them because they've been here so long, it does. It very much does. It doesn't matter.
So lots of love to everybody, and just knowing that with all these people moving to a new location, I can only expect that the world's going to get its act together. That they're moving up there to do some heavy lifting about what's going on down
not
here.
just leaving us to fend for ourselves.
Either way, good on them. Anyway, okay. So anyway, well, that's what we're going to talk about when we come back is vacations, staycations. We'll see where that takes us. But in the meantime, it's time for the good news. What do you got?
It is indeed time for the good news. Well, I have a story today about, believe it or not, mangrove forests. I don't know if you know, but mangrove forests grow in water along rivers, along the coast, etc. And they've been decreasing for years. They had been, and there's a new study which indicates that actually in the last 20 years that's reversed. And the importance of this is that they absorb 5 times the amount of carbon as your terrestrial forests, so forests on land. And as we saw in around 2020, I think it was, or not 2020, but in 2010 or so, or before, we had big tsunami in some of the Indonesian areas, and the difference between those that had cleared off their mangrove forests and those that had not was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. It was just a huge difference. So they actually protect people, they protect the environment, they protect all kinds of things. And so what they found is in the last 20 years, or the last 4 decades actually, there's been a net decline of 1%, which means basically nothing has changed. There have been some that have been cut down, and there have been more that have been re-added. And so it's continuing to be able to do its job. So there you go. Good news on the environmental front.
I love that. I love how much of the environment is really repairing itself, and we're taking care of the earth, so it appears. Well, my good news story is about a British police officer, excuse me, who came to the United States for vacation. And he was going to Nashville, and he got to Nashville with his girlfriend and I think his kids, and they were driving. They just left the airport. They were driving down the highway for about 10 minutes. when out of nowhere he saw a police officer that was distressed with somebody, and he is a police officer. He was an off-duty sergeant in Britain, and he saw this police officer having a problem, and it was instinctual for him to pull over and get out and help him. And this the policeman had tried to stop a pedestrian and just to see what he was doing because he was walking on the side of the road, and the pedestrian went ballistic and actually got a hold of his gun and started shooting through the holster and all kinds of things like that. And so the police officer jumped in, the off-duty sergeant, and um, got him down on the ground and literally saved his life, because the guy, the United States police officer, didn't can't imagine. He said it was the closest to near-death experience because they were like, in a remote area on the side of the highway. And his girlfriend, who is actually also a constable in Britain, made the phone call to the police while it was all happening, and literally they saved the guy's life. So,
Wow.
and he said it was instinctual. He said that he had stopped a few minutes before to put on music. He's like, we got here, we were ready to relax, get away from the kids. We put on the music, and he said if I hadn't have stopped there, I wouldn't have been here at the right time. And he just, leaped out of the car and did what was instinctual to him.
Yeah.
So,
You can't shut off. Uh, you can't shut off the good that flows. You just can't. And I think the people that allow it to flow do allow it to flow all the time. You can't but not do that. There's no way to do it any other way.
well, yes, and I think it speaks to a lot of the things we've talked about on the show, which is, what do you listen to?
Mhm.
Because I'm sure there was another thought, and I'm sure his girlfriend had a thought or two too. Even though they're both trained to serve and that's what they love to do. I mean, you're in another country and you're jumping out into the face of danger, knowing full well that that's what it is. So it's like,
You technically have no jurisdiction of any kind. You don't know what you could get in trouble for.
exactly.
All that kind of stuff. That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, to really just go with your instinct and know that if this is yours to do, I mean, I think you really have to be tuned in and listening. So, so kudos to everybody that was involved in that, and I'm glad everybody's safe. And are we taking a commercial break?
We can. Would you like to take a commercial break?
I just
Let's
want
do
to.
it. Okay, well, why don't you get us ready to go?
All right, I'm gonna get you ready to go. So we're gonna get you ready to go, and while I'm bantering so that he can get commercials up, I'm just gonna say that once again we're glad you're here, and we're gonna be talking about vacationing, and we're also gonna update you. That's the thing we didn't talk about in during the week was we actually did Rockin the Love as a Sunday service.
And we did. We did a community connection
We
service
did.
doing Rockin the Love.
Yeah, we sat there at a table like we were doing our podcast, and we took them through what we do with you all. And it was so magnificent coming off of last week's show. So thank you to everybody who was out there watching and holding the space and participating, because it really opened up the space to talk about, excuse me, becoming, and where people hold back, and it was great. So thank you. And if anyone new is out there watching, because we did say you could see us weekly, Wednesdays at noon. So you never know who's tuning in. You really never know. It's so interesting. Like somebody came over to fumigate our house, and they're like, well, when my wife and I watch your podcast, we're like, oh my gosh. Anyway, so it's fun. So we know you're out there, even if you don't speak up. And you will only know that we're here if you come back after this commercial break. So don't go away. Stay right here, and we'll see you right back here on New Thought Media Network. Or not.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Come expand your spiritual journey. Join us for Just the Talk. Sundays, 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Experience Unity Kitchener and Ottawa. Center for Spiritual Living Midtown. Center for Spiritual Living Denver. Unity of Garden Park. New Thought Philadelphia. The Sunshine Cathedral. Unity of Savannah. And the Om Center for Spiritual Living. Come unleash your spiritual potential with New Thought Media Network.
Thank you so much. It's so good to see you here. This is Gil.
And this is Robin.
And we are excited to welcome you back to Rockin the Love, our weekly show about the joy of relationship. And when we think about relationship, we think about it as a very broad term, where we are in relationships with people, with ourselves, with our jobs, with our gardens, whatever it may be. And so we hit on a wide range of topics. So today we're talking about vacationing.
Vacation. Vacation to vacation or not to vacation? That is the question. So obviously this came up because we're in theory on vacation. Or even if we don't consider it a vacation, like a family trip or something, we started talking about the importance of vacation.
Why is it important? Do we know?
Tell us.
Well, vacation is that time when you get to do something different. And I think that's why sometimes these family times together sort of qualify to some degree, or like with us, we're doing a multitude of different things here, but none of it is our normal routine. And we're seeing people we don't see every day. And we're not cleaning up our house because we're not there. And, everything is shifted. I think at some level, for me anyway, the concept of vacation has something to do with just getting out of the routine and having a different way of living. I mean, if you go on a quote business trip and you're doing your business during the day, and staying somewhere else at night, it's a little different, but you're still stressed. You're still in the midst of worrying about everything. Whereas if you get out of that environment, you get a chance to do something uh, that might be a little rejuvenating.
Yeah, well, you're there on a mission if you're working.
Right.
You know, there's things to do, and we're on mission.
Yeah. There's
I mean,
things to do.
we have distinct things to do and get done. But I'm also intrigued by the thought of, you know, how important is a vacation and how do we really define it? Because I think staycations can be just as valuable.
Possibly. Possibly, yes. If we do them correctly, you know, if we really allow ourselves to shift the energy and and let go of all the things. I think for me anyway, staycation is fine, but it's harder for me to let go of the stuff. You know, like the regular things that are still around and everything's there to remind me that they're there. So I feel like they're still there for me to do, even if it's not mine to do right at that time. You know.
Yeah, I do notice you have a problem
Oh,
detaching.
you notice I have problems.
No,
What is that about?
no, but seriously, I used to do staycations all the time with my girlfriends when we were, you know, in our 20s and 30s. That like, um, they were so fun. We couldn't wait to have them because we really made it a point to not do any of those things you said, and we had plans to do other things. So if it was to hang out by a pool and go to a jacuzzi or, you know, go out to a show or whatever it was literally like a weekend where that was really it. And we relaxed, or we went somewhere local like that. Like when I lived in California, Southern California, we go to Palm Springs because that was, you know, 2 hours away or whatever it was, you know, or little things like that where it wasn't like a vacation. I didn't have to pack and really change my life. It wasn't like I was going to, you know, Japan. Was it was a short trip and it was a weekend trip, and it was just such an opportunity to let go. And we do, you know, even when we've done it for a day, the difference is incredible in what we feel if we just go, okay, not going to do it. I'm not going to do work, even though we want to. I mean, I think I would love to have like 3 days, 4 days to do that with you at home, because really it takes the first day to really let go, like you said, to let go of like, oh, if I could just fix this, or if I could just move this here, or, you know, or I go, you know, God, it'll only take you a minute if you just move this to the other room, you know, all of those things. And it's really being able to let that go. But I just want to say, I think, like in conjunction with the conversation we had last week, I think it's so important for us to be able to let go and, you know, find that space where we get to reinvent ourselves or really be, you know, if it's meditation or in the silence or whatever it is, when you're trying to emerge from that place of not being seen or finding the newness in who you are. I think it's important to take the space to nourish that.
Yeah, well, interestingly enough, in just thinking about this, I was looking at a few things, and one of the things I discovered was, you know, in terms of developed countries, the US is like one of, or the only one that doesn't have federally mandated vacation. And what they talked about was the extent to which productivity changes with vacations because people get a chance for their brains to reset. They get a chance to come back with a fresh set of eyes to whatever it is they're doing. You know, you get a chance to think creatively in a new way. And somehow in this country we haven't, you know, we are so stuck on the Protestant work ethic that we think you have to work all the time to be productive. And over and over again in other countries, they've proven that, if you shorten the work week, if you do this, if you do that, you can arrange it so that you still get the same amount of productivity out of less time if you set it up right for people. And they have a 3-day weekend on a regular basis to rejuvenate. So they have that day to mellow out. They have a day to work around the house, and they have a day to do whatever. I mean, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that that's a really important point. And when I look at other cultures, even like growing up in Mexico, part of the time my life was so different just by the way they divide the day. By really having a larger lunch, 2-hour lunch, and you know, siesta time, whatever it was, 3 hour, I guess 3 hours. So you could do lunch, you could take a nap, you could rejuvenate, and you couldn't even really do errands. You couldn't like go, oh, I'm gonna do this on my lunch hour because places closed.
Same time.
Right. 'Cause places closed. I mean, some were open, but it was still that space where, you had um, that space to nurture yourself. And then you went back to work at 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock.
Yeah, it's interesting you said. I hadn't thought about that, but that makes sense. Um, the other thing is that if people have that built-in vacations on a regular basis of some kind and they're frequent, that it actually improves the employee loyalty and decreases turnover.
You're not, you've lived with me. I've worked in places in the television industry where people would come in and go, "This is where you work?" Because we had ping pong tables, we had video game machines, we had all kinds of things. We had snacks all day
Cookies
long.
and chips and
All
good snacks. A lot of good food too. Right?
Yeah, but I mean, there was just those options so that when a writer or someone needed a break, you walked out, you took a break, and you played a game, or you played ping pong, or whatever you did. But I mean, and that's just like at Facebook and Yahoo and all the big companies that create that space.
Eating, they have food available. They they encourage people to interact in more casual situations, which allow for your brain to be more creative. I mean, the less you're stuck in a pattern, the more you can bring in those quote outside thoughts, if you will, those things that are outside your box, and that supports your ability to offer something.
I was just going to say, and your favorite model place, Pixar. We went to Pixar when we lived in Northern California, and it's the place you'd want to hang out. So it's like you walk in and there's like a restaurant, there's a game room, and there's the theater, and there's all these different nooks and crannies that the writers and the creatives can go to during their day to allow that creative energy to flow.
The people you don't think of as the creatives, the people that are doing things that are more technical, etc., interact with the creatives, and people understand better, and then their ideas mesh better because they talk to one another. Otherwise, those people don't talk to each other, because you're in your bubble, in your department, doing your thing. And that was part of the design of Pixar, was there had to be a place where everybody went. So where everybody would interact and talk and hang out together and get to know each other, instead of, I know everybody from marketing, but I don't know anybody over an operation,
Well, and if you extend that concept to the greater world, that's what it's all about, right? We go to another place, we go to another country, we meet other people, we begin to get to know each other on a different level, and
Well, and we come to appreciate, there may be things that we don't understand, we don't relate to because it's not in our normal milieu, but just by humanizing it and hearing it, we go, oh, and we start to be able to appreciate even if we don't quote adopt it as our own, we appreciate some of these things from other places and other people. And it's, I think it goes from the smallest, from the department in your job, to other departments, to other people of other cultures, to other people in other states of the country, to people in other countries. I mean, you can look at this on all different levels, but it's the same basic concept,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking when you were saying that even Zoom has provided some of that.
Mm.
You
Tell me about
know,
that.
okay, I will.
Well,
No, but
hurry
I
up.
was thinking about during COVID,
Yeah.
when we were all on Zoom together, and that, I met people from all over the world that did improv, or that we met people who were at a concert that was being presented online, or we used to go to game nights. And there were people from all over the country that were playing games on Friday night online with a host that was doing, like, the newlywed game type games where we had a chance to compete for prizes, kind of thing. And but it was interesting. I mean, to meet, someone in Scotland who couldn't go outside either because COVID, and they were walking their dog around their backyard. I mean, just different things where we got an opportunity to, like, talk and connect with people and learn different things. And I feel like vacations are important for so many reasons, but I do think it is really, it can be anyway, like a reset, a reset, and a kind of like filling your tank, right? Rejuvenating and finding new inspiration, or remembering old inspiration, or something.
Well, you're talking about COVID and the lockdown, et cetera. And I was thinking, um, how our family did the sort of unique vacation, particularly for us at that point. And we rented a motorhome and went on a driving vacation. You couldn't really go to hotels very easily, and you couldn't really go places and hang out with people. But we went to some beautiful places, did some stuff, and just did it as a family, the whole time. So even in the midst of that, we were able to find a way to vacation, to do something different, to get away from at home where everybody was on their computers for classes, for work, for whatever they were doing, you know?
Yeah, we were in the Grand Canyon
We went to the Grand
with
Canyon.
the moose. There were mooses all over the place.
It's not meese, is it, for many
I don't
mooses?
think
No, I
so.
don't think so. Yeah.
No, meese is what we had at our story. So, and some people say they don't need a vacation.
Right.
What's that about?
Well, I think some of us, I go back to the work ethic thing, where people live in a certain amount of fear, and they think, oh, if I go on vacation, they might discover they don't need me, or um, it'll be so screwed up when I get back, it'll be a pain to redo it and figure out my job again, and all these
People
kinds of
think they're,
excuses.
what do you call it?
And it's non-expendable.
Yeah.
Yeah. You think you're too important. Yeah, goes back to my dad's example of, if you feel real important, stick your fist in a bucket of water and pull it out and look at the hole you left. So
Sounds like a sermon.
yeah, it should be. But the point is, I think there's a lot of fear. There's also people that have perfected, they may not call it that, but they're pretty good at doing a staycation. And so they don't want a vacation in maybe a traditional sense, but they do take time to do their own thing, and they make sure they go places and do things that rejuvenate them.
So isn't that boundaries? Like,
Boundaries.
setting a boundary, like, let's just take you, for example, or people, anybody out there that's serving in a center. especially if you happen to be a minister or in charge of something like that. We apologize. We're sitting outside, and our dog is needing to let the neighborhood know that it's hers. Anyway, but I mean, like setting that boundary, like, no, my weekend is my weekend, or my day off is my day off, or, this is what I do on my day off. Like, you can't stop us from doing work on our day off. Like, we don't set that boundary that, like, nope, no work after this time, no work phone calls, no texts. I mean, people who do that, I really admire that you can do that, and people respect the boundary because they know, okay, I'm not going to do this during.
Get a response.
Yeah, which is different than just texting Gil because you just know you're not going to get a response.
It's so much easier. Well, I think that's so fascinating because, interestingly enough, I think you think about the labor laws through the years, and the fact that we went from child labor to putting to having people have to work in factories 6 and 7 days a week to make enough money, to all these kinds of things, and we had unions and implemented laws and things that would limit it and enforce employers to pay people a more reasonable wage, and force people to have a reasonable amount of time they could work. More than that, you got paid extra and all this kind of stuff, right? And then technology sort of moved in and took it all back. And I think it's something I don't know that we've acknowledged, but because your pager was on your belt, now your cell phone is in your pocket, and you're available by text, by call, by email. And so you may not be at the office or you may not be on the job, but you can be contacted anytime. And in some cases, you are very much expected to respond.
Everybody expects you to respond. I don't know why you say in some cases. You just have skirted that issue, but everybody expects you to respond almost immediately. I mean, unless you've made it super clear.
Yeah.
Like I try to make it really clear. If you want me right away, do not text me, call me, because I look at my texts often, but I don't have a bell that dings and I go, oh, I have a text.
You know what? When she says that, she's not actually being truthful, because most recently on her new phone, she does have a bell that rings.
But it doesn't tell me. It tells me text and mail. So I don't pay. I don't know which it is, and it's.
I just know this because I hear it. But yes, I know what you're saying. Absolutely. And there are ways to that, but I'm just saying, in terms of a society as a whole, we've sort of recreated that ability to cut into people's time off. So the natural time off, the natural rejuvenation period of 2 days off or 3 days off, isn't as prevalent as it once was. Because there's too many ways to get caught up. Even you work 8 hours and you're off 16. Isn't really the way it works necessarily.
You work four tens.
Yeah.
4 days of 10, and then you have 3 days off.
Yeah.
I mean, I like that kind of a model that gives you more days off, because I used to think this when I was younger, and now I notice more that when like on a weekend, it's like by the time you're ready for the weekend, because now we do so many errands and things on the weekend, that it's not relaxing. So it's like if you have a 3-day weekend, you have a little time to get some stuff done and then relax. By the time, because usually by the time Sunday comes, you're ready to relax at the end of Sunday. Especially if you work in any centers or churches, spiritual community, because Sunday, right, whoever said, and the Sunday is the day of rest, I don't believe them that they were working in any centers or churches.
Perhaps quoted from, God before people created the religious centers.
Okay, but there's no time and space, so God knew what was coming. So you can't fool me on that one. It's just something they put out there for publicity. God was in the PR business. But anyway, yeah, I think people need more time to rest, and like you alluded to, especially nowadays, because we do 10 times more than we used to.
That's true. We have to know way more. We have to learn way more. We have to keep up with way more in order to continue to function at a productive level in whatever we're doing, because things change, because there's so much new technology. Oh my gosh, there's so many great things out there that would make would make things pop in ministry, for instance. But I don't have time to learn how they work. They will do so many things, but the reality is, in order to do that, you have to have some understanding of how they work and be able to implement them before they can start doing the things that make your job, quote, easier. And so it's a big curve. Well, something else I was thinking about was they've done some studies in Europe and stuff where rather than doing 4 10s, they would do 4 8s. And they actually discovered with that they could get the same amount of production out of people because they, would have that extra day off. And they would get the same amount done in 4 8-hour days versus 5 8-hour days, because you're lagging out toward the end of the day, you're whatever. And, you got to be there. So, well, okay. And so, some of the advantages of having people actually working aren't really there.
I totally hear that, and I totally understand that. And what happens with the 8 hours of pay that people lose?
They don't. In Europe, they didn't lose the pay. And the experiments, you have to do it where you pay them the same amount. You can't take away the money.
Right.
Because otherwise it takes away the incentive.
Yeah, no, I love Europe. I mean, I love the way they think, in terms of everything, in terms of leaves of absence for people at their jobs, and parenting, and, all of those things. I mean, I think, and not just Europe, other countries, in my experience, just seem to value values more than, like you said, the just the money factor and the survival and the desire to achieve. Yeah.
The output and the net result sometimes. I mean, they can factor it into a much higher degree into that. Right. And truly honor it and realize that by doing so, generally that's going to result in a better output, a better, the whole thing. They're going to win in the long run, if you will.
Yeah.
In terms of what they're doing. And it's an interesting thing. But the other things that I've seen is that anytime you have people work beyond about 8 hours, their productivity level starts to drop so quickly that it's not even hardly worth it. Right. Yeah. Which is part of why, they experiment with going to 4 8s rather than 4 10s, because they weren't getting that much out of the extra 2 hours.
Right. That makes sense. Unless you're a policeman.
There are things where we need, coverage, if you will.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. But still, yeah.
Yeah, but I can see where 4 8s would work for that too. I mean, it's.
Yeah.
But the other thing I was thinking, and we're about to close out, I don't know if Raymond is still out there, but I was thinking about Raymond, and I was thinking, this is a man who does so much. Like, I don't know how he keeps up with all that he does. He's got like 7 doctorates, and He's written just his new book is coming, just came out, and he does his own center thing, and he's like, the other day I asked somebody why they weren't at my class, and they were like, "Oh, I went to Raymond's." I'm like, he has a Wednesday night or Thursday night, no, a Wednesday night circle, and like he's like the Energizer Bunny, I was thinking about, well, how does he do it, and yet he still seems, I don't know, centered and present to things. Anyway, so I was having that talk. So I don't know if you're still out there, Raymond, but I know that we've invited you to the other show, and you know, I don't know what's happened to my assistant, my scheduler. They just can't get it together. They're too busy doing other things. So I would love to have Raymond on, just talking about like energy and how that affects.
Yeah, I think it'd be great. First of all, to have you on, we'd love to do that and ask you some questions and have you give us some insight. And it makes me think that we have natural differences in us in terms of how how our bodies function, how our emotion, how our whole thing runs, how we operate. And so not all of us have the same energy, perhaps. On the other hand, there's a lot that we can do to align ourselves in ways that give us the maximum of what we have, that can allow us to function at a what's a level, a prime level, a premier level, or whatever you call it. But the level that is great for us. And I think that's really the thing, is how do we run our lives so that we're in joy, so that we're in productivity, so that we have time to learn. How do we do that in ways that keep us fresh personally, and in terms of our connections to work and life and whatever else we do?
Very good question. Unfortunately, the time is up. So I think what I would leave you with, let me think, what would I leave you with? I think it's really important to explore what your body needs, what your soul needs, what would really fill you up, and whether that's a big vacation, a little vacation, a getaway, something to do on your bucket list, your artist way date, whatever it is, I mean, but something. I think the important thing is that we get ourselves nurtured, and obviously there's all different ways. I know that, going to see family is super nurturing in some ways, and that doesn't mean it's restful, or that it does the same kind of rejuvenation factor. It may rejuvenate your spirit, but not your body, or your soul. So what do you need, and are you willing to take it?
And and I think the staycation concept is something we don't often take advantage of what's right in our backyard. The things that we don't have to drive several hours to get to, or we don't have to take a plane, or we don't have to whatever, that we can, jump in the car and drive half an hour. We can be at things to do that are people travel hundreds and thousands of miles to do, right?
Yeah.
Um, just yesterday, we were at the dentist's office here in California. I was talking to one of the women at the front desk, and she's like, "Oh, Albuquerque. I want to go there. What do you do? What's there? What's there?" And asked me, to give her a list of things to do. And I could do it. But how many times have I done those things? Not necessarily too often. you know, how many times have I taken advantage of that? So anyway,
But again, also, we're sitting out in this beautiful backyard that we could show you. Why did you show them?
okay, let me give it a shot.
Um, we're sitting out in this beautiful backyard that, our sister has created. Again, it's really this little oasis where when you sit out here, you can take a breath and you can, go far away in your mind. You can meditate. You can just find that space. So even if it's something that small, even if you go to your backyard or you go out to a park or you just go somewhere, a mountaintop if you have one quiet next to you, you might have to go walk away and get out. General, yeah. As he's walking around and giving you a closer up view, I just want to thank you so much for being here. I want to just send blessing out to our producer, Michael Mangus, wherever he may be, knowing that everything is going smoothly. And of course, I want to thank New Thought Media Network. Your donations really make all of this possible, so we really appreciate it. Apparently, you can see the grass. Okay. There you go. There's some lovely roses and flowers and hibiscus and all kinds of things. And there's birds out here, and it's just really beautiful. And yeah, we may even see the beach today. Very excited. Anyway, whatever you do, just know that we are thinking about you and knowing that you're rocking the love out there. So thank you, everybody. And we will see you next week. Bye.